Recently, I found out a fascinating fact. Did you know that the average person gets 56 interruptions a day and 36 email checks an hour? In fact, I will speculate that anyone who's listening to the show is going to be checking their email at the same time. So, what do you do about this? How do you really focus on what's important? So, today's show, we have Gaby Mengstab, who is a performance expert, will tell you how to get into the flow and focus on what's important. Everyone I talk to, there's never enough time, or I didn't have the time, or, I talk to people, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy, but I'm getting nothing accomplished. Have you ever heard this? As I said, in my position, I hear it all the time. I even hear it from myself, and I catch myself every once in a while. I don't have enough time. You know what? And here's the problem. As an entrepreneur or even a high-level executive, there's a million things happening all at one time. And that's what it feels like. And I feel like they're all urgent. We all have to do them right away. And as I deal with financial advisors, and I talk to advisors right across the country here, and they're running their own business, it's the same thing. They got client calls, they got paperwork to do. The compliance is overwhelming, I hear. Working with your staff is so much work. And then you got to have a life out of that. Then you got a family to look at. I was talking to somebody yesterday. Their kids are all over. They're in different tournaments. He's driving them all over. He's a professional taxi driver. It can be stressful. And yet others can have all the same stuff and yet really, really, really be able to focus on what is important and what needs to get done. And it looks like magic. And they do it without seeming to burn out at all. So this was an interesting topic. I was thinking about this, is we're all very busy and we all want to do our best. So today we have Gabriella Mengstab. She is a leading performance strategist. She's been doing this for over 18 years. So she started when she was 10, and she started in the financial service industries. She's done leadership roles at companies like PIMCO, Allianz, Perpetual. She's worked in all facets of the financial industry, operations, trading, business development. But where she found her little groove is, what I understand, is the intersection where sales performance and human potential cross. And now for more than a decade, she's been, inside the machine, building sales strategies, leading national account relationships, and looking at, financial high performers burning out, plateauing. She saw that it wasn't a lack of talent. It was a performance system problem. And I can tell you, I've been a victim of this. I've burnt out. I know that what it's like to feel just overwhelmed. So today, she helps financial firms solve this problem. It's really cool, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation. It's all about the neuroscience of flow, focus, and cognitive clarity. What she tries to do is equip sales leaders and advisors with tools to reduce their overload, to unlock deep work, and execute under pressure. So who is Gaby? I'm going to use Gaby from now on. She holds an MBA from New York University, Stern. She's certified through the Flow Research Collective, which I don't know what that is, but I'm going to find out what that is. But it is extensive training in cognitive behavior science, neuroscience, breath work, and meditation. Wow, there's going to be a lot here. In 2023, a performance training, she developed a performance training for financial advisors at Perpetual, and was named a finalist for the Barron's and MMI Asset Management Awards. Wow, that's pretty cool. Recognizing her unique ability to merge commercial acumen with cognitive mastery. So where is she today? She's the founder of Kinderwell. It's a performance-based consultancy. She looks and basically specializes in financial professionals, most of my audience here, and look to how to lead, sell, and live at a higher level. So Gaby, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you so much. That was
a lot to get through
quite
there.
the introduction.
So this is great. So let's start right at the beginning. So Gaby, how did you get here? What led you to all of this and to the work that you do today?
Okay, that's an interesting question, right? When I spent 18 years in financial services, whether I was pitching mutual fund, talking about asset allocation, no one literally asked me, how did I get here? What is your story? And ever
Yeah, that's
ever
the best
since
part.
ever since I made the pivot to this world of professional development, like that's the first thing people ask me. And the first time I got asked that question, I was like a deer in a headlight. I was like, how did I get here? And I had to really, really reflect, right? And just like everything else in life, it wasn't one thing, it wasn't
Right.
one moment. It was a combination of decisions, moments, and that led me here. But as I thought deeply about it, and I was like, how the hell did this start? How did I, fall in love with human performance?
Right.
It started, funny enough, it started with something that I tell my clients never, ever, ever to do.
It's always that way.
And it was about 12, 13 years ago. I had this horrible habit of falling asleep in front of the television on my couch.
Right.
And one night I was laying there with the TV on, like I always do, and I got woken up by this infomercial.
Hmm.
Remember infomercials?
Oh, yeah.
And the infomercial was on this book. I don't know if you've read it, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill.
I certainly have many times.
Yes, it's one of my favorite books still. And I don't know what prompted me, but I woke up, got my credit card in a fog, punched everything in, ordered the book, and I couldn't wait for it to come. I really honestly don't know what prompted me to do
Hmm.
that. That was like the first time I ordered anything through an infomercial. And the book came. I read it cover to cover. It's probably the first book I read outside of school. And, and the best part was that I started implementing all the stuff that I learned in that book. And at that time, I was in product development and I was trying to go into client-facing business development.
Right.
And I
Right.
had applied for the position twice, never gotten it. And within like a couple of months, people started noticing the change or whatever. And there was another opportunity to apply for that role, and I applied for it, and there was like 50 applicants, and I got the job. And I was like, oh my God, okay, so this worked. And so I think that was like the gateway drug to personal development. And after that, I was totally hooked. I like went to every seminar I can find, right? I tried everything from like mind-based, like cognitive behavioral, to values-based, to you know body-based modalities like Ayurveda, functional medicine, biohacking, to more like altered states like
Hmm.
breath work, meditation, and I even dabbled in psychedelics. So like you name
Wow.
it,
The
I have
whole the whole
tried it,
thing.
the whole gamut. And I was like, why did, and I was using it as really like a performance edge, right? Something to
Mhm.
give me competitive advantage. And I think honestly, my obsession with personal growth is really like I give it all the credit to the success that I've had in financial services, right? Like at my height, I was, at the director level, I managed about 100 billion in client assets from a
Wow.
client management perspective. And so the problem was, right, everything I learned gave me a breakthrough, right?
Right.
Gave me some sort of result. But it was very short-lived.
Mm.
And there was no way to make it stick and to systemize it, kind of integrate it. It was just like I had all these tools everywhere, and I would do a seminar or read a book, get really excited, implement it, and then go back to how things were. Until I encountered flow science
Mm.
and the science behind peak performance and flow states. And that really gave me the understanding, first of all, why those things were working. And also, it gave me the formula on how repeated peak performance actually takes place.
Mm.
It gave me a system. And I think that's where I I always say like my biggest growth has happened in the past 3 years than it did my entire career. After I discovered flow state, everything kind of exploded, right? That's when I created the program that got me nominated at the Barons. I went from like speaking in smaller rooms, breakout sessions, to doing keynotes, and there's so many other things that I accomplished, and I pivoted completely. Right, I was struggling to launch my business forever, and then within just 6 months, I got it to six figures where I could completely, make
Right, make
the
that
pivot on
transition.
to 100%. And that was because I was able to not only perform at my best, but sustain it, right? I used to burn out around fall,
Right. That
like
was
a
it.
clock,
Right.
right? Like go, 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 go. And that's the thing. A lot of high performers, like we know how to turn it on, right?
Right.
We know how to grind, we know how to hustle, we know how to be busy, but we don't know, we know how to overfunction, but we
Right.
don't know the flip side of performance, which is really recovery. And that's what gives you capacity, right? And we think performance is about, knowledge accumulation, skill development. And I think the gap is like we don't focus enough the second, the flip of performance, which is really like your state,
Right.
right? Your state determines how you show up. Your state determines how easily you can access the skills and the knowledge and everything that you have. And so, and the state, just to clarify, is your physiology and your psychology, right? If that's not functioning well,
Right.
right? That's why sometimes like you feel like you're on a roll, you're like word finding and all that stuff, and sometimes you're like, oh my God, I can't remember anyone's name. What is happening? And you feel like in a fog. That's really, it's the state at play. It's like the invisible driver of performance, and
Uh,
that's what really made me focus on teaching and talking and flow states.
wow. You see, that's a great journey. See, they're like the sort of the classic entrepreneur. You had sort of an inspiration. I love it from a book, and we've had other people on that got some inspiration from uh, somewhere. But a book is a good one. And then create a whole different trajectory in their life to include entrepreneurship and going down that. And it sounds like, and it's something that my book just came out, and I talk all about having a purpose. And it sounds,
Yes.
talking to you, you have a purpose. You have a mission. Every hero needs a quest, and so your quest is to
Yes.
help people sustain top performance and not because burning out is a thing. And I read this. I think it was one of your pieces, right, of how distracted we are these days, and especially if you're a busy person. And this was an amazing fact. There's 56 interruptions a day, 36 email checks an hour. Uh, how did we get to the point where this is our lives, where we don't actually get to do work anymore? We're just distracted by a whole bunch of things, and you get to work with some top performers. Is that true? And then what do they do about that?
Yeah, it's funny, right? When you actually look at the stats, and every time I share this stat with any company leader, they're like, "What? What are you talking about?" But when they think deeply about it, okay, that makes sense. We are really distracted. But when you look at it from a brain science perspective, it actually makes complete sense. And the reason is because we're hardwired for distractions, right? And distractions are really like goal irrelevant information, right? And information to the brain is like it's like flames to a moth, right?
Ah,
Our
yes, yes.
brains love information because it is what helped us survive, right? Our ancestors, this wiring actually benefited them, right? Any new information in the environment meant, survival, death, right? Getting eaten by a predator, or
Right.
new
Yep.
food source, right?
Right.
And so information was, we were hardwired to want, crave information, and our reward system, right? Our dopamine system lights up with new information, whether it's emails, Instagram reels, any novelty that you get, it lights up the
Mhm.
same way it lights up when you eat sugar.
Right.
And so because of that, if we are not intentional about it, we are going to be we're now at that same wiring that used to help us benefit us is actually working against us because we have over information overload, right? Information is traveling faster than light and feed, right? It's everywhere. And here's the thing, the biggest issue is actually our brains are starting to actually rewire, right?
Mm,
Without us even knowing it. Um, Back in the day, right, or in a healthy brain still, dopamine is associated with effort. And
right.
what I mean by that is we used to get that reward chemical by engaging in something that required effort, right? That's why people climb Everest. That's
Right.
why people create
Jump out of
100
planes or do,
million
yeah.
businesses, right?
Right.
Because it's because of that same system. But the brain is smart. It's efficient. It's not wired for change, right? It's really wired for efficiency. And it says to itself, oh, I can get that same reward chemical just opening my phone, going on
Right.
Instagram, checking my emails. Why would I now go do and read a dense research paper? And
Yes.
so we're wiring our brain to crave cheap dopamine, shallow work, right? Busy work, but not work that actually moves the needle. That's basically the explanation of why it's
No, I
happening.
love it. Because I find myself in it. I used to think I was a pretty focused individual, and when I take on a project, and I would have my times and everything. But even I catch myself at some point. I'm working on something. I pick my phone up, and I look at stupid things for like 10 minutes, and then I go back to whatever I was doing. I'm like, those 10 minutes could have been way easier. And in fact, one of my I have a friend, and she's probably one of the most focused people I know. She refuses to get a phone. She's like, no way. If I get a phone, I will be on that phone for the rest of my life. So she doesn't have, and she's like one of the only people I know that doesn't have a cell phone because of that reason. So I think we can all certainly identify with what you're saying because yeah, it makes us feel happy. So now let's get into your process. You came in with this whole concept and have this concept flow. So how's that different? This flow concept that you have is different than what we used to call being in the zone, or that kind of expression that we had. What is flow?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for crediting me for coming up with flow,
Of
not.
course I am. You're on my show after all. You get all
Yeah,
the credit.
yes, I am totally no. Flow is actually one of the most researched psychological states. There's over 10,000 research papers on flow. But to answer your question, like flow and being in the zone are one and the same, right? People just
Right.
use
Okay.
different terms to talk about that same state. So like athletes call it in the zone, musicians call it in the pocket,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even
I have heard that.
dancers.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a flow psychologists call it flow state, right? And the I guess scientific definition is flow is the optimal state of consciousness where people perform and feel at their best, right? So
Right.
that's the official
I like it.
um, term. And the best part about it is universal. Everyone has experienced flow,
Right. At
right?
some point, in some way,
And
whether good or
yes,
bad.
I guarantee you your most memorable memories, right? The ones that you remember, the ones that light you up, they had a lot, like they were probably a flow-filled moment,
Right.
which is why flow, amplifies memory, learning, because basically when you're in flow, you release all the full feel-good chemicals. That's why that it sticks, that memory sticks.
Right.
You're releasing like dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, like all at the same time. And when you're in flow, you're basically super focused, right? You are so dialed into the task that you lose your sense of self, right? You kind of
Yes. Yeah. I
there's
know
no
exactly what
separation
you're talking about.
between you and the activity that you're doing, and you lose sense of time. Time either slows down or it speeds up.
Right.
And the best part about flow is that because you lose your sense of self, your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive center, but it's also the inner critic, quiets
Hmm.
down. So self-doubt lowers,
Goes away
right?
or
Yeah.
lowers.
Yes. And you're fully present, dialed in. And that's why performance really skyrockets. And what they found is that, with every like athletic record that has been broken, any like masterpieces in art, any innovation, scientific breakthrough, the common denominator is that these people were in flow states.
Right.
And it's not just like in art or ath um, running or like any sort of athletic
Right.
endeavor, which is what most people associate flow with, but also in business, right?
Right.
And the biggest research is McKinsey did a 10-year study on executives on flow state.
Mm.
And after 10 years, what they found was that executives that were operating in flow state were 500 times more productive than when they weren't.
Wow. 500. Think of
100,
that. That's
yes.
not a little, that's not a small gap there. That's
No,
500% better. Yeah.
no, think about that. That's like if you show up on a Monday and you are operate in flow state, you could basically take the rest of the days off, right? Because you're operating as someone that's working 5 days a week. That's
Right.
what really 500%, and that's a big number, but it's not just productivity, it's learning. The military did a study and learning was cut in half, and its creativity 400% up. And so flow accelerates and supports all of the performance markers, right? Motivation, creativity, learning, memory, skill, everything goes up when you're in flow state. So it's kind of like the compounding effect in
Right.
finance, right?
Yeah.
It's a multiplier.
Yeah, you see that, you know what? And in observation, like I get lots of entrepreneurs onto this show, and certainly in my day-to-day work, I deal with entrepreneurs all over the place, and you can tell, the ones who are in the, let's say, in the flow, the ones who are really focused. And then again, you can tell the ones who are incredibly distracted. They go back to all those things I said in my introduction. I'm too busy. I don't have time. I'm like, wait a minute, you don't have time to call your clients? Like, that's literally the most important thing you can possibly do. And yet you're too busy. And to your point, it's what did they, where are they focusing their energy, their time? Where are they passionate about? All of those things I think come out of this concept that you're talking about, this flow. Now, when I was going through your program seems to have 4 phases. Maybe you could talk about each one of those phases and what they mean. And
Yeah.
how they would work as if I was running a business or as an entrepreneur, what it would mean to them.
Okay, so if you strip down everything and you really simplify it, I like to simplify everything. At the heart, at the core of my program is just like alignment of performance and neurobiology. And if you look at flow, how does flow arise?
Right.
And flow arises when cognitive load is low, right? So
Right.
when you have cognitive bandwidth,
Right. Yeah.
and you put in place triggers that actually um, increase all of the feel good chemicals, mostly really dopamine. And that's what my program does, right? And
Right.
it's 4 phases, but what it does is we spend the first phase basically eliminating friction. That means lowering really cognitive load, all the things that for example, financial advisors have to do, compliance, email, all of the admin and maintenance and all the decisions. We basically systemize it, we create a process, we streamline it, and so we can free up the advisor to really do what the work that moves the needle, like
Right.
client and revenue generating activities. And then we optimize their capacity. So we give basically make sure that their energy source is restored, right?
Right.
Here's where we work on optimizing their capacity to be able to manage stress better, to do to be able to regulate their nervous system, um, their energy management, like I said, grit, resilience. That's where we just focus on all those things that amplify performance and give you
Right.
greater capacity to do better and better, right? To keep growing. And then thirdly, we operationalize deep work. That means getting you out of busy reactive mode into being a more goal-directed,
Ah,
goal-oriented, and focusing on things that really um, create revenue for you,
right.
deeper
Get the
client
right results for that
relationships.
activity. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Busy is the new stupid. Somebody said that, and I thought it was really
I
funny.
like that. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, and lastly, just institutionalize flow, right? We make peak performance not something that happens by accident once in a blue moon,
Right.
but really something that's systematic. And I don't know, I'm sure you're familiar with Mohammed Al-Arian from PIMCO.
Yes.
He was the ex-CEO. So he used to say this phrase, and I always loved it. He used to always say, let the process do the heavy lifting for
Right.
you. And PIMCO is PIMCO not because of talent, right? Not because of star manager. Bill Gross left and the
Still
firm kept
goodwill. Yeah.
delivering really like we grew more than we did before he was there, right? And that's because they rely on the process, right? They
Right.
have a process. And so that's what I try to do with this program is I don't want you to rely on willpower, discipline. Those are all finite.
Right.
It's more about creating systems that actually work with your biology instead of against it, to make it in a way that performance, showing up and doing the hard work becomes effortless.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
all about systems.
I love it. And it goes right with, I have philosophy, and I write about it in my book, and it's all about, everything should be outsourced, delegated, or systemized. So take every activity that you and your business do, and ask yourself, should I be doing this or should somebody else be doing this? Should our
Yes.
company be doing this or should we outsource it to someone who does it better than all of us? And anything that doesn't fall into the other two categories, systemize it. And it sounds like exactly this flow, this neuroscience is the same thing. So that way, as
Uh,
an entrepreneur, I can really focus. How did you put it? Operationalize deep work. I love that. I like you. I'm going to use that one too. And steal a whole bunch of stuff
yeah.
from you, but really focus in on the things that are important. Because when you actually look at, now use, by the way, I'll use a stat, and you can use this too. What do you think is the most important activity that a financial advisor can engage in?
What is the goal of the financial advisor, right? Is to grow, right? And you
Right.
grow through client acquisition, through servicing clients, getting deeper with client relationships. And so
Right.
that is like your goal directed
But
actions.
if I use the singular task of sitting in front of a qualified prospect who is willing
Mhm.
to do business with you,
Yeah.
right? If in other words, if your whole week was filled with you sitting down with qualified prospects who are willing to do business with you, would your business be more or less successful? The answer is probably be way more successful.
Yes.
Do you know,
Yes.
and this is a Canadian statistic, do you know what the average percentage of time that is spent in that particular activity by the average advisor?
I don't know about the advisor, but in sales is
Yeah.
26%.
See, the way higher. It's 7%. So only
Wow.
7% of an advisor's time. And it's easy to figure out. So, any of my listeners, you want to figure it out? Just go back into your calendar, color code the time that you spent in that activity versus the number of hours of you worked, and do the division. And it's probably around 6 to 7%. And so, going back to your particular point, is
Hmm.
that is operationalizing deep work. That is the most important function for growth that you can have. What you have to ask yourself is, why are you not doing that? Like, what is all this other stuff? How do you eliminate fraction? How do you friction? How do you get rid of and optimize capacity? How do you institutionalize flow? Like, your program is perfect for anyone who wants to, really focus on what is important.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? Prospecting is hard, right? That's why we
Right.
eliminated. There's a lot of uncertainty that happens when you're prospecting, right? And the brain, like I said, is not built for that. It's built
Right.
for efficiency. And the thing is, every time you go prospect, you go through a struggle phase, right?
Right.
Like before flow, there's struggle. There's no way about it, right? Because in order to enter flow, something has to be a little more challenging than your current skill set, right? Prospecting is hard.
Right.
And so every time you try to go prospect, all these uncomfortable chemical cortisol spikes up and it's really uncomfortable. And now you associate it with, oh, this sucks, it's hard, I can't do it, and all that stuff, instead of being like, oh, I'm in that struggle phase. This is actually a gateway to flow to that sweet spot. And when you reframe the struggle, right? Then you're able to recognize it for what it is.
Right.
It's just temporary, and you're going through the uncomfortable stage before growth,
Right.
right? And you just have to persist. And there's things that you can implement to lower the uncomfortability, right? You can reset by using your breath work to
Right.
lower the stress that's spiking up and things like that. And so first is awareness and then having tools to get through the struggle phase and also ha lowering the load, right?
Right.
When something is if you don't have a clear map on how to get there, right? If you don't have clear goals, right?
Right.
I mean, like very specific outline, your brain reads that as overwhelm.
Right.
Your brain needs direction and it likes clarity. So make it easy for yourself.
Yeah. No, and prospecting and finding new clients, that's it's rejection, right? And people don't
Yes,
like
it's
rejection. Now,
uncomfortable.
I tell people I had no problem with it from dating, so I was already used to it by the time I started my business. So, very, very used to it. One of the
Yeah,
other things
it's
you
a
talk about,
muscle. It's a muscle.
right? And after a while, it's like everything. You can get used to almost anything. A human can get
Anything.
used to almost anything over time. So, it makes perfect sense. And especially if you identify it, you know that you're going to feel this way, it's
Hmm.
much easier to overcome it. And now, one of the big things is about time. And I started with this, right? That seems to be everyone's problem this day. Like, again, literally everyone I talk to, everybody's so busy. Everyone's got busy at work, busy here, busy there. I'm not sure that I believe any of them, but everyone in their mind believes that they're busier than everyone else. And you have something called the strategic time design. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that and how that would work for people.
Sure. And so when I was working at Allianz, I had the opportunity of being mentored by our CEO. His name was Doug Yu, most interesting person you'll ever meet. And one of the sessions that we had, we sat down and he was like trying to schedule time with me, and I saw his calendar and it was like color coded. Every single hour was accounted for. And I remember reading like drinking water or whatever, and I was like, okay, that's like overboard. Like, why
That's
does he have to
extreme.
schedule
Yeah.
bathroom breaks and water breaks and whatever? But now that I know the science behind everything, like it completely makes sense, right? He was basically front loading his decisions, right? So he can increase capacity for more
Ah,
important things.
yeah,
And so, yes, there's like time management and all that stuff, but the trick to getting stuff done is actually separating planning from execution.
right.
Those two modes are two different brain modes, and they're like salt and water. I mean, yeah, right? Salt and
Yeah,
water, they don't mix well,
they don't
right?
mix well,
Yeah.
or sometimes they
Yeah.
mix well. Yeah, so
Yeah, yes, and it's very energetically expensive to switch between those modes.
mm,
And so you want to plan your work and then work your plan. And you
right,
also want to front load your decisions when you have energy, not like at the end of the day when you're tired and you're like, oh, forget this, whatever. And you don't want to rely for that moment, right? When everything
right,
is pre-planned, you make every single time that you have, like you don't say like, oh, work on prospecting. You actually have to outline all the clear, like you
what
have
it
to
actually
outline
means,
all
right,
the steps because procrastination is not laziness. Procrastination is brain overload.
right.
Literally.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
So
I'm going to use
so
that
if
one
you
too.
if you don't schedule the time, right, you're gonna never do it.
Right,
You're gonna procrastinate. And then if you don't give your brain, if you don't make it very easy for your brain, like sometimes I will write open computer,
oh
open
wow, so that
sheet,
kind of detail,
like that kind of detail because I make the hurdle so easy, right? Before when you go work out, for example,
right,
if you're just like, I'm gonna put on my clothes, I'm just gonna go downstairs.
right.
I'm just gonna lift one thing, then
Yeah,
momentum takes over.
right,
But I lowered the hurdle to entry. And so that's
right,
how you have to treat when you're actually planning your time. And like you said, a lot of people don't know what they're spending their time on, right?
right.
Color coding, planning, and all that stuff also helps you see like, oh, damn, I'm spending a lot of time on Instagram. What is up with this?
Well,
I'm spending a
that now with this stupid thing tells you how many hours you spend. I was like, oh, that's bad.
Yes, 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 yes. And you can actually see how much time you're spending on the things that move the needle, right? Client
Right,
conversations with clients, and all that stuff. And so, and I would say that the other thing is schedule your most important tasks, like being in front of client when your energy is high.
right. So
And
usually early for most people, but not always. But yeah,
not always. There's
yeah,
like my night owls, right? Their energy, like their energy actually rises in the afternoon. And so you have to know your energy makeup. It's called chronotype. It's basically like when do you have the most energy? When do you feel the most alert? And there's um an exercise that we go through to figure out what your chronotype is. Are you like a lark, like an early riser where your sweet spot is really between, 6 a.m. and like 10, and then
right,
most of the population falls in the middle between like 8 to 11, and then you have another energy pickup from like um 3 to like 5, like that hours between like 2, like 1 to 3 you will notice that you have a dip if you fall into
right.
that. But then there is different for people that are more like your night owl. So like the whole like wake up at 5 a.m. to be most productive,
Yeah, the 5 a.m.
it's
club. I'm like, I don't like
it's
those people. I'm not.
uh,
I don't want to be hanging around with anyone who wakes up at 5 a.m. So
yeah, we're not all wired like
you're right.
that. Yeah,
That
and
would be the
if
opposite.
you force yourself, you're working against your biology.
No, no, it makes perfect sense. And I
Uh,
I know the color coding, but what I take out of this is, maybe it's got to be even more detailed. Like I do know, and I do it myself, right? I color code my activities and I plan them out through, so I don't have a to-do list. I actually put the times that I'm going to
on your,
do
oh,
each of
that's
those
awesome.
tasks on
Okay.
the calendar and color code it based on, whether it's strategic, client facing, and or, sort of operational like junk. I put it in the junk file. But at least I know where I'm spending my time. But you turned me on to something very interesting. Is make it even more um, specific than that, and that allows you to track time to see how much time you're actually spending on, what we call those deep things. How did you put it? Yeah. Operational is deep work. I love that.
Deep
I'm going to
work,
continue to
deep work.
utilize that. I'm going to quote you a lot, so you're going to get lots of publicity from that particular one.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now,
It,
from the other audience we have is we have a lot of people who are executives who are building careers and that sort of thing. So, from a leadership perspective, how would a firm, how would a company integrate flow into their culture? How do you make that happen so that it's something that everybody buys into? Because it sounds like everyone would be focused on the right things if you had this as a cultural type of mantra within an organization.
yeah, well, so that first requires what triggers flow and what blocks flow,
Right.
right? And so the things that trigger flow, you have to have clear goals. How many leaders do not know where they're going? Like I remember when I worked at every company I worked at, we had like a million things that we had to focus on, a million products,
Right.
and it changed every quarter. And so it's like, oh, at any given moment, I don't know what to focus on, and I have 10 things to focus on, right? No, one thing, right? Just focus
Right.
on one
Just
thing. What do
one
you
thing.
do really well and be clear about what the goals are. And so everyone in the organization can follow that. That's a huge flow trigger. Autonomy is another one, right?
Hmm.
Micromanaging does not
Does
work.
not work. Yeah.
People are not, like the talk about burnout is mostly around overwork, right?
Right. Right.
But you can also burn out from being understimulated, right? Not feeling
Good point. Yeah.
challenged, right? Being extremely bored.
Right.
That's another source, right? Or micromanage. There's so many other sources. The only one that's known is overwork. So autonomy is a huge one. And then putting people in the right seats, right? When an activity is intrinsic and it's autotelic, we talked about advisors focusing on client prospecting and all that stuff.
Right.
But if you're an advisor that, you know, intrinsically you're more motivated to, build portfolios or work on something else of your business, then you have to pair yourself up with another individual that
Right.
likes prospecting. So then everyone is doing what they're innately curious about, what they call autotelic activity,
Right.
right? Flow shows up when the activity is autotelic, when it's innate and it's you're intrinsically motivated to do something. So that's the big one, right? And also it's an environment that rewards results, not inputs, right? Like
That's a good one. I like
activity,
that. Yeah.
counting activities, all that stuff. Yeah, it's great. Those are all inputs and they yield results. But when you focus on the outcome, I don't care how you get there, but
Just get
this is
there.
what I
Yeah.
expect you to get done. You remove a lot of noise, you remove a lot of cognitive load, and then you become more goal oriented, goal directed, outcome focused.
I
And,
like
and
it.
and also it's responsiveness, right? That's rewarded. How
Right.
people like answer emails and oh they must be working really hard. So what you're doing is rewarding busy,
Right. And not rewarding results. I like that.
not
Yeah.
rewarding results. And so actually if you respond too soon, you're not prospecting, right?
I was
You're
going to
you're on
say,
your
you're
email.
looking for an excuse not to prospect.
Exactly, exactly. Why are you on your phone every five? Why are you on your email? That's what I would be saying. And also make recovery part of the culture, right? A lot of firms like they wear like, overwork, um, busyness, all that like a badge of honor, but recovery is not.
Right.
No, make people take off, right? And actually shorten the day
Right.
because like when you're like, oh, I have all day to clean my apartment, it takes you all day. But when you say I only have 2 hours, somehow miraculously it gets
Miraculously,
done.
it's done in
So
2 hours.
having more time actually works against you. So just
Right.
like have a very strict start and finish. And you should be like, yeah, it's
Well, I can talk from personal view. I come from a long line of workaholics, and mostly what they got was death as opposed to any real reward system. And I went through a coaching system, and they said, you got to take more time off because the most productive people are those who take sustained time off. Coming from my background, I was like, that's ridiculous. Take more
Yeah.
time off and you're going to be more effective. And sure enough, I started to do just that, work a month, take a week off, and my productivity tripled I can use that against income. My income tripled in 3 years. So, and it was because of these prolonged periods of time off where you can come back fresh and creative and tackle the world. Whereas if you go too long, you're just going to burn out, and then you just after a while hate the job.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it works like the same way when you go to the gym, right? When you work out, lifting muscles and stuff like that, the growth happens in recovery, right? If you don't ever recover those muscles, your capacity to lift more never increases.
Right, you plateau way quicker.
You plateau. It's same way. So like by not recovering, when I say recover, is active recovery.
Right.
Watching television, drinking wine in front of the television is not active recovery. Active
Although fun. Yeah.
recovery is actually work too. Like it actually it's something that turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. So
Right.
things like yoga, meditation, exercise, walking, being with friends, spending time with friends, that's also it's whatever replenishes the chemicals that you just burnt. Being in flow.
Yeah.
Flow is
Being in
expensive.
flow.
Work is it's expensive. You gotta replenish it. And flow is not an on and off switch. It's a cycle. It has four phases, and the fourth phase is actually recovery.
Recovery. Geez, Gabby, I could talk to you all day on this, but I better get to. There's a segment of my show which is the rapid fire questions. So I'm
Okay.
going to ask you 3 questions, one at a time, and it's the
Okay.
first thing that pops into your head. Although I think I know the answer to the first question, but the first question I always ask everybody is, "What is the best business book you have ever read?"
I have to say one of my favorite books that I've ever read is The Alchemist. And it's and
Classic, yeah.
yes, and it's because it's tied to purpose and meaning and I feel like in order to be the best, you have to have meaning, you have to have purpose, you have to have direction. And people think purpose is like something you find, but it's actually something that is cultivated.
Right.
Um, and
No, I
so
love it. I
yeah.
love that book too. I've read it many times actually. And so, my next question is, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
Confidence starts with self-trust.
Ooh, I like that
Doing
one.
and saying and doing what you said you do actually hurts your confidence and your um, self-efficacy. And so making promises to yourself, keeping those is more important than keeping promises to other people.
That is
And we
great
usually do
advice.
the other way around, yes.
You see, I always learn something new off of every show. And lastly, how do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? Wow, you're asking really great questions, very deep questions. It's so funny for my business school application. Instead of a paper, I did this newspaper where like I told the story of like, okay, the sports I played, how I dressed, like to tell the, and then I did an obituary.
Right,
And that was like how I want to be remembered. And I think for me, what's really important is that every person that comes in contact with me leaves better than they were before they encountered me. And I want to be like present and give them everything that I got. I love people, and so for me, that's really important. I want to be remembered as, oh my God, yes, she was present. She gave me time, and she left me with something that helped me.
well, I can tell you, I will remember you that way. So
Aw.
if you started at one, then you already have one that will remember you that way.
Oh, I love
So
that. Thank you so much.
Gabby,
Really
this has been
appreciate that.
great. As I said, I could probably talk all day on this particular topic. But let me tell you what I learned. We're all busy. We're all, especially in this world, everybody is overwhelmed, between emails, between business, between home life, between social media. There's always something going on. But the secret to success is to get into the flow, which I love it, which is how can you be your best? And going through what Gabby told us, how do you eliminate friction? How do you optimize your capacity? How do you operationalize deep work, which again, there's a great phrase. I'm going to use this one again. And then how do you just institutionalize that flow into not only what you do, but your entire team and how they operate? And I think these are very valuable lessons for not only entrepreneurs, not only financial advisors, but I think everybody. I think everybody comes, this is in today's day and age, this seems to be an ongoing thing. And I think what we have to do, as a society is get back into the flow and stop with all the distractions. So I think this has been fantastic. So Gabby, if someone wanted to learn more about you, how would they go about doing that?
Sure, yes. They can connect with me via LinkedIn, and it's my first name, Gabriella, double L, and then Mengstab, just spelled Mengstab. They can connect with me through LinkedIn or through my website, which is www.kinder-well.com.
Right. So Gabby Mengstab of Kinderwell, thanks for being on Turning the Page.
Thank you for having me, Chris. This was super fun. I really enjoyed it.
In my book, The Six Circle Strategy, one of those strategies is all about focus. And I know that's one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to do is focus on the right things. So if you've been having trouble and knowing what those things are and how to focus on them, I'd love to have a virtual coffee with you. So just go to the show notes, hit the link, and we can have a little chat about how you can better focus to get better results.